Hey, 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 it's the video about the Disaster Bowl. Now, big apologies to those of you who are waiting for this video because I had some very angry emotions that I needed to deal with a little bit beforehand. Not relating to the game, not relating to the Canadiens or the Canucks, not relating to anything like that, but relating to other stuff that involve the channel. I had to really blow off some steam, so yeah, I apologize for this video being late. But the Vancouver Canucks have won themselves a game, and to be honest, my immediate response upon seeing this game and seeing the matchup and seeing the stats, I was like, okay, my team is Vancouver. Everybody kind of knows that. My second team is Montreal. And with Jeff Gorton now at the helm of the Montreal Canadiens saying the R word, the very ill-fated and just despicable R word, rebuild. Oh, that's a nasty word now, isn't it? With that being the case for the Montreal Canadiens, I was kind of like, okay, this team is one of the worst in the NHL. If they start losing games, that's cool. I'm good with Jeff Gorton going out there and following through with a plan that he has set. Because when it comes to Jeff Gorton, I think everybody kind of knows this guy knows how to run a hockey team. And since he is pretty much the de facto guy in charge at the moment, hey, don't want to mess with the guy's plans, right? Meanwhile, for the Vancouver Canucks, there was a different kind of sentiment when it comes to losing, because Vancouver is not saying that R word yet. Vancouver is not going out here with any intentions of even insinuating that R word exists. This team, off of the guidance of Francesco Aquilini, has one job and one job only, and you kind of know what it is if you try to fill in the blanks over here. Which is why, for me, as a Canucks fan who is a primary Canucks fan, I was kind of saying to myself, okay, I would much prefer Montreal to win this game tonight. Because Montreal, they're already committing to a rebuild. Jeff Gorton is not afraid of a rebuild. I trust Gorton more to actually follow through and structure the Montreal Canadiens in a proper way heading into the future than I do the Vancouver Canucks with Jim Benning and Aquilini as the two guys up top. Travis Green, everybody else here. As a Vancouver Canucks fan who is looking ahead to the greater good long term, I want this team to crash and burn so that change actually comes. And, you know, even though that's kind of how I feel, even though I'm kind of on the, okay, the Vancouver Canucks are now in the tanking for Shane Wright trade, even though they didn't even really want to be here in the first place, this hockey game, Vancouver-Montreal, that was a fun game. A really fun game. It's a 2-1 Vancouver regulation win. So even though the Canucks ended up winning this one, which is admittedly what I was kind of hoping against, the Vancouver Canucks still showed off that they have themselves the capabilities of beating a Montreal Canadiens team that is around their level in the standings. And it's kind of funny because Montreal has had Vancouver's number the past 21 games? Like, Vancouver hadn't defeated Montreal in regulation in however many years. It's been a while for Vancouver. And this was a game where in the Bell Center you could kind of feel the energy in the air. Both these teams are bad. Both these fan bases know that these teams are bad. And at the end of the day, the one that's cheering for Shane Wright is going to be happier seeing their team lose, and the ones that are still trying to cling on to that hope of watching some fun hockey from their favorite teams were hoping for their teams to win. This one, you take a look at the score, it is 2-1 Vancouver. You take a look at the shots, 42-34 Vancouver. But you know what's strange about that? Even though the shots were heavily outweighed in Vancouver's favor, I felt like Thatcher Demko was the more spectacular goaltender here. Not because he won the game and he let in fewer goals, but because of the quality of the chances that he faced. Montreal was all over Thatcher Demko in this one, especially towards the end. Meanwhile, Vancouver, sure, they had a few really good opportunities, a few really good rushes, and Jake Allen was forced to make some pretty clutch saves. A big chunk of the offense that Montreal had to deal with from Vancouver just came in the form of on-the-rush, far-out wrist shots or point shots with no screen, straight into the chest of Jake Allen. The Vancouver Canucks, even though they had 42 shots, not all of those shots were good shots, if you get what I'm saying. And I feel like the proportion of high-danger chances for Montreal was a lot higher than that of the Vancouver Canucks, despite the fact that the Canucks outshot this Habs team. So, let's get over to the scoring. This one started off with a Vancouver shot mark of like 11-1 or whatever it was. This is exactly what I was talking about. So many of these shots straight over the blue line, just throwing it to the goal, looking for something, looking for anything, and it just gets swallowed up by Allen. Eventually, the Vancouver Canucks go on a power play. Nick Suzuki trips up Elias Pettersson, and guess what happens on this power play? Miller and Hughes are cycling it around the top of the umbrella with EP40. Eventually, it goes back to Miller on the left side. He finds Hughes at the top. Hughes over to Petey, and he rips one in. 8 minutes in, it's 1-0 Vancouver off of an Elias Pettersson slap shot one-timer. And man, did I not say it at the beginning of the day, in the Barzal video with Pettersson, in yesterday's video about Boston, in the video a few games ago about Columbus. I want Pettersson to be the best version of this guy. It's just he hasn't been, which is why we keep on cementing the point that his play this season has been inferior because we know he could be better. This is what happens when Pettersson unlocks that drive. Not only was it the shooting decision, but the actual placement of the shot, far side this time, ripping it over the blocker of Jake Allen. It gets through everybody. This isn't like that fluky goal he scored before where he has to hold onto it and he shoots it, it goes off the end boards and it bounces in off of the goalie's skate. This isn't like the other goal where he held on and he was kind of hesitant, but he gripped it and ripped it. This was a classic Elias Pettersson snipe, and you could sort of feel that the confidence was starting to build itself back up. Now, did it last for the remainder of the game? I personally don't think so, but baby steps, right? Baby steps are better than 0 steps at all. Give it a few more minutes in this first period, and the Vancouver Canucks eventually give up what is ultimately going to be described as the NHL 22 forced cross-crease goal, where Jonathan Drouin is skating down the left wing. He's approached by like 2 guys, and he just throws it right in front, and guess who is right there? It's Ryan Poehling, man. This guy was all over the puck here tonight. Great game from Poehling, in my opinion. He's the first man to it. He just chips it over Thatcher Demko, and I mean, you've probably seen me score a goal like this every game I play in Hockey Ultimate Team. It's the force. It works. That's why it's in the game. EA Sports, it's in the game. But this one was a Tucker Poolman play that was a lot less than spectacular, and it's one of those plays where you just get reminded, oh boy, we have Tucker Poolman for 4 years, eh? That's fun. Really, really fun. Eventually, give it a few more minutes in the second period, and the Vancouver Canucks get themselves a goal from Conor Garland. This was a terrible play for the Montreal Canadiens because at the other end, you had yourselves Josh Anderson, who kind of fell down while getting forechecked against. It was a weird, almost pseudo-tripping kind of play where the Vancouver Canucks could have gotten penalized, but upon further review of the replay, Josh Anderson falls down in the offensive zone trying to corral the puck. Eventually, that same Anderson picks the puck back up in the Montreal zone, and he's trying to go around the boards. He drops it off for Jeff Petrie, who is behind him, but he doesn't realize that Petrie isn't going to get the puck. So, after Josh Anderson attempts a drop pass, it goes right over to Bo Horvat, of all people, and he just throws it to the front of the goal. Guess who was there? Conor Garland. He gets that forced cross crease as well. 2-1 Vancouver. That's the only amount of offensive production we get in this game as the score ends off at 2-1. But my goodness, the Montreal Canadiens after this point and in the third period, they just kept on getting chance after chance after chance. And Thatcher Demko, dude, this guy stood up to the task and he made those saves with a passion. A .971 save percentage here, 34 shots against and 33 saves in 59-37's worth of ice time. Sure, there were more penalties in this game, and especially in the third period, the Vancouver Canucks took 2 of them. It was Nils Höglander and Kyle Burrows who actually went out there with the 2 penalties, and I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, yesterday the Canucks were up 2-1 heading into the third, then they took some penalties and they lost because of it. What's going to happen here today, playing against a much inferior Montreal Canadiens team? And the Habs just couldn't get any offense done on the first power play. The one against Nils Höglander, that was just Montreal bringing it in, Vancouver intercepting and sending it down. That happened rinsed and repeated like 3 or 4 times before the penalty just expired. Then you had yourselves the Jake Evans tripping penalty against Elias Pettersson in the third period as well. This one was a lot worse than the very first Canucks power play where Petey scored his only goal of the game, because you saw sort of the weariness in Pettersson start to come back in this third period power play opportunity. He wasn't shooting it anymore. He was holding onto the puck a little bit too long. He was making reads that you're like, okay, that's a good read, but you have to pull that off faster, Petey. Come on. It's baby steps, right? Baby steps, that's what I said. And then you had yourselves the final power play of the game. It was Montreal on the Kyle Burroughs penalty. Montreal showed off in this power play that they actually do have some really good skill when the guys show up and actually do their jobs. Because, my goodness, did Thatcher Demko have to make himself a clinic of saves in this one over here. Ultimately, though, the game ends off at a score of 2-1. The Vancouver Canucks have now overtaken the Seattle Kraken, I believe, who actually won a game today against Buffalo. So, good on them. Oh wait, actually no, because Seattle won today, they're back on top of Vancouver. Yeah, okay. So, the Canucks are still last in the Pacific Division over here, but at least they have overtaken the Montreal Canadiens with this win. They were tied before, now Vancouver has the lead. If you're wanting to tank for Shane Wright like I kind of was, then that's not a good thing. But if you're wanting to go out there just watching a good hockey team, or excuse me, not a good hockey team, but a good hockey game, that's what I wanted to say. A game. This was a fun game. Really exciting game. Really high-paced, really high energy, good opportunities either way. Talk to me in the comments what do you think about the Disaster Bowl over here. Two teams at the bottom of the standings dueling it out. I hope you enjoyed this. Trolls 9 and bye.